Bahama land. I know I've seen your face round and round. I'm giving you my best. Someone to see me bound. Cause I am reaching for the sky and they want to pull me down. Oh, bad mind. Some people got bad mind. Why do bad mind me? Bad mind. Some people got bad mind. You mess with my family. Yeah. Hey.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Real Talk Now with Howard Grant right here on the nation's superstation, More 94 FM radio. It is a beautiful, absolutely gorgeous Tuesday morning out here in the city, wherever you are in the diaspora. If you're listening in to me, happy birthday, Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah. I don't know what you're celebrating. Happy all of these things. If you are in the land of the living, you should be giving praise. Talk to me. I'm excited to be with you guys this morning. It's kind of shaking off that dust. You know that we were off for a little while and then kind of getting back into the swing of things. It's just amazing that, news don't never stop. I mean, it don't hold on for you. And that's why life goes on. I mean, a great deal of us are still kind of stupering and we're still kind of stewing in that thing that happened in yesteryear. Talk to me. You're kind of stewing in that, right? I tell you, I gone through some things in my life, man. I was hurting must be 3 years straight. All manner of cigars I tried to be able to put in that to fill that void. That didn't work. Sometimes we just got to let some things go. You got to let it go, baby. You got to let it go to get on to the purpose that you've been called to in this life. If it didn't kill you, it only here to make you stronger. So let's keep moving forward with passion. This kind of a determination to be able to have a very clear understanding that if you are in the land of the living, you should be giving praise. We started off with a little bad mind. Talk to me. How did this get to be a national conversation? I mean, that's just a question for me. All manner of things are happening around the world. The only aspect of this I see from a national standpoint is what the people can bring back. That's it, for me. I'm not concerned about who gone and who ain't gone. How did this get to be such a major issue in this country? Is that just an island mindset? People who ain't got nothing to do, nowhere to go, just finding something to talk about? Loose. In the name of Jesus. I can't even get no amen. I just want to put that out there in your spirit while we're having these good conversations and talking these things. All manner of things in the paper, guys. Make sure you pick up your paper. The FNM is defending the food task force. We see the former minister says that all transactions were transparent. All transactions were transparent. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just want to be able to say to these guys that we could see you. Talk to me. I mean, you ain't out here hiding all the information. We have our own Freedom of Information Act. We have the significant connections to be able to know exactly what's what. And what's not transparent is the affiliations thereof. Let's talk about these things. I got someone going to be calling in today with me to have a good conversation. We saw that the acting Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister of the country, Minister of Investment, Minister of Tourism, Chester Cooper, had an opportunity to be able to talk to Arawak X's little convenience. They convened yesterday to have a tech talk. It was very good. I read some of the excerpts, some of the stuff that he actually said, and talked about. I gotta commend Arawak X, man. These guys are really doing the major thing, and forging relationships internationally to be able to bring some things here: education, information, empowerment. Shouts out to Arawak X. Shouts out to DRC Ramming Senior and Junior. They've been able to be very good friends to us, doing some stuff with me as it relates to patio politics. So I continue to be able to thank them for all that they've done, and they kind of push forward to make some things happen. Let's thank the persons that continue to sponsor us today. They are Domino's Pizza, better than ever. I was about to say Arawak. Domino's Pizza, better than ever. Butler's Funeral Homes and Crematorium, as impressive as required, as inexpensive as desired, and IAP Mall. Register your store today and start selling. That's IYAPMALL.com. Guys, we're going to get back into it. Chomp these things down and have a good conversation about where we are and where we're going, and whether or not you just got bad mind. We're going to be right back after this.
Real Talk Now with Howard Grant. We'll be right back.
The Ultimate Game Day Bundle is back, and Domino's is delivering new ways to win. Grab 2 hot and delicious medium one-topping pizzas. a live voucher and a 50-inch flat screen smart TV, courtesy of Costrite. Winners selected in Nassau and Freeport February 12th. Scratch and win every time you purchase. Order online now. Domino's, better than ever.
Real Talk Now continues right now with Howard Grant, only on More 94.
Me. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Real Talk Now with Howard Grant right here on the Nation Superstation, More 94 FM. We're live and in full effect. I want you to give me a call today. Be a part of the conversation. 341-MORE, 341-6673. Anywhere from the family of islands, 242-300-6673, 9494. You get us right here in the studio. We're chopping it down, having good conversations, and really being able to talk about where we are and where we seek to move towards in this nation at this time. I'm so happy to be here with you. I just want to touch something before we dive into it. I got a caller that's going to be talking about some things. We've seen a significant increase in rates in Grand Bahama for increase in 3.3% increase in power rates in Grand Bahama. This is crazy, right? I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about this kind of an idea. We saw the chairman for the Chamber of Commerce in the Grand Bahama start to talk about, we don't care how much you sell it for. If you give it away, we don't care. All we care about is there to be done, to work to be done. So we want to talk about those particular things today. I got C. Allen supposed to be calling in with me today to kind of talk about that. But before we get there, there's something in the paper that we didn't kind of dive into yesterday. I think we're kind of wrapped up in this conversation about Dubai and who in Dubai and everybody in their ma trying to be in Dubai. My wife said to me, we riding, right? We got, we be riding, right? She won't go for Kong salad. I mean, it didn't start off like that. It just, we were supposed to go to get something for me, right? And she's like, well, I guess you're going to carry me for Kong salad. So anyway, we end up getting Kong salad. So we're sitting on the beach, right? She eating a Kong salad, relaxing herself, right? And she says, you know, I should just go over by the beach and wrap my hair in your scarf and just sit by the side and say, the life in Dubai. I said, well, why would you want to do something like that? She said, I don't know, I think it's funny, right? I said, why? She said, because everybody else going to Dubai. I said, you need to stop it. We laughing about the thing. And then I look on my social media. Everybody in there, trip to Dubai, ready for Dubai, trip to Dubai. Why are Bahamian people so indecent? The indecency is rich. You need to stop it. You need to get your lives together. But I want to talk about one thing. We wrapped up in that. But there's one thing that we kind of skipped over. We talked about it, kind of a silhouette of it, but I wanted to talk more specifically about it. Right? Yesterday in the papers, you would have been able to see Iram Lewis come to the forefront. Right there in the Guardian, starts to talk about F&M1's a full accounting in Dubai trip. Now, I want to be able to talk about this. There's some excerpts that talked about, the controversy that exists in social media at the forefront. And then it goes on to say, Lewis said that the decision to move forward with the trip, especially when the Bahamas is in the midst of an economic crisis, is difficult to accept. And then he goes on to say, Bahamians are watching carefully just how careless and negligent this current government is, especially as it relates to the scarce resources of the country. This is what he said. He says, we are calling on this high-flying government. This is crazy. I love how they kind of coin these things. It's always hilarious. They kind of slip it in there. This high-flying government, right? And if it was Fred, if it's just say Fred, Minister Fred Mitchell goes by himself. High-flying Fred. You need to stop it, but this is what they do. Right. So anyway, let's read, right? So we're calling on this high-flying government to give a detailed account of the Dubai trip, including the itemized list of expenditures, a breakdown on especially how many individuals were a part of the delegation, a list on exactly how many government officials were on the trip and what justified this amount, and how many cultural artists and artisans were included on the trip, and what was the criteria utilized to determine which artist, group, choir, or entertainer would comprise this cultural delegation. Finally, Given the severity of the fourth wave of COVID we are currently experiencing in this country, did the government receive the all clear from our local health professionals regarding the Dubai trip, including the size of the delegation and how this decision might impact our COVID situation in our country? This is what he asked. So I wanted to reach out to him. I give him all the pleasantries. He did a wonderful job in being able to speak to my uncle's funeral the other day. Couldn't go, but I told you I watched the entire thing. And then I asked him more specifically, is this as a result of social pushback from the Dubai trip? And if not, has the FNM set a course to engage youth along the lines of global preparation for local application? That's the question that I had for him. And then I went further and I said, your administration in many ways led with and in austerity measures, shying away from anything bold, new, or outstanding, shying away from anything bold, new, or outside of the local box of tradition. And he didn't answer. He didn't say nothing. He tell me no. I said, he text no. And that's it, right? LOL, right? That's it. So I'm waiting for him to kind of give me a call back because I want to push back at this. And, if only to be able to play the advocate, not the devil's advocate. The devil is a liar. I want to play advocate. The advocation is for progression and growth in the country. The advocation is a very clear understanding that past generations who would have been able to sort experiences elsewhere in the world would come back home and fall in line. Talk to me. We fall in line. Now, I don't know what the intent is or what the spirit of the idea was in its inception. Why this administration has decided to be able to go forth into Dubai, I don't know. Yesterday we had a lengthy conversation ad nauseum about the fact that there should be results. You should now go into this environment while you're experiencing and explore and being able to expose our culture and show our culture while this is a cultural expression. The truth of the matter is that you should bring something back home. And I said, I'm only waiting for that. I'm only waiting for there to be a very clear understanding and conversation as to exactly what's going to happen and when we move forward. That's it. What are you bringing back home when you go? Nobody care how long you've been to Miami. What are you bringing back home when you go? And then Latrell Ramming just put some information out there. The government of the Bahamas and the government of the United Arab Emirates signed a memorandum of understanding, provide the framework for technical assistance between the two countries. The Davis administration is focused on deepening our diplomatic relationships with governments. Now, we have a very clear conversation. Give me some more detail to these things. So these are the conversations that I want to have. Now, more specifically, some information came to the forefront speaking more about what's happening in Grand Bahama. The Port Authority in Grand Bahama, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, the Grand Bahama Power Company has decided, whatever their caucus or however they come up to this decision, I understand that there was a 6.3 increase rate that was on the table, and they pulled that back to half, dropping it by 3%. To now 3.3% to increase power in Grand Bahama. This is magnanimous. And not in a good way. This is horrible. This is horrible. This is bananas. In the midst of an economic crisis, in the midst of a situation that's happening globally, we're in this kind of a space right now, and we're recognizing that corporations concern for themselves. That's it. Corporations will do whatever it takes to ensure that their bottom line is not tampered with, despite the fact that they've yielded so much from the environment over the years. We understand this is business. But we as a people now have to diversify, have to move away from these particular things. We have a great deal to offer. There is at least 360 days of sun in this country. I can't even get no amen. And in the midst of all of that, we're held hostage by a company who seeks to be able to increase on the backs. And listen, Grand Bahama, look at the contrast of the conversation. The Chamber of Commerce is only because the Freeport Chamber of Commerce, that particular sector, their only concern is that there's productivity and growth. They don't care if you spend it. They sell in. You sell it for $50 million. They don't care if you sell it for $12. They don't care. They only want there to be productivity and growth and an opportunity for people to move forward and start to pay their bills in Grand Bahama. They need economic activity in Grand Bahama. Simultaneously, the Grand Bahama Port Authority the Grand Bahama Power Company has increased its rates significantly. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to be able to introduce you to someone that you know also well, none other than C. Allen Johnson. He's on the phone with us this morning all the way from Grand Bahama, really being able to have a good conversation. Good morning, C. Allen. How you doing this morning, my brother?
I'm doing okay. Good morning to the wider Bahamas.
Thank you, my brother. Talk to me about what's happening in Grand Bahama. Talk to me about, whilst we're looking and the city seems to be burning, whilst we're looking and it seems to be in exile and a lot of persons are actually moving out, whether it be Canada, whether it be Nassau, whether it be other places, there's cooperation in Grand Bahama, or corporations in Grand Bahama are seeking to be able to ensure that they stay and retain this. They're always in the black and not concerning about the community. Let me hear from you in that particular perspective.
Well, you're absolutely correct. In summary, the Grand Deception is often referred to as Grand Bahama.
Mm-hmm.
The reason is that what people have to understand is that if you go back, and let's just put some context in, if you go back to the 2007 election, 2002 election actually, you would see where the PLP administration was talking about how integral Grand Bahama would be in the acceleration of development of the Bahamas. Then came the twin hurricanes. So in 2007, Grand Bahama again became a major platform in the political debate for leadership election.
Now, before you go on with the explanation, I want to ask you this question. Is that a political ploy to be able to capture the seats? Because in 2002, there were 6 seats in Grand Bahama, and Grand Bahama is often referred to as F&M country. Or do you believe both politicians and the leaders in Grand Bahama, from a Port Authority standpoint, recognize that its strategic location is ideal for economic growth globally?
No, it is. The ownership of Grand Bahama knows that one side is participate in what is called the arrogance of ignorance to paralysis of analysis, and the other suffers from paralysis by analysis. But the problem is that the leadership of the country, if you let me go back to my explanation, they both know that that Grand Bahama is key to the economic development. This is why I said in 2007 it became a central role, because they were not just speaking to the 5 seats in Grand Bahama, they were speaking to the entire country when they said to the country that Grand Bahama, when restored from 2007, would bring an economic birth to the Bahamas as never seen before. This was again repeated by both sides in 2012. It was repeated in 2017. And if you go back to the 2021 campaign, it was once again. If you saw Hubert Minnis made, 16 or 17 appearances within a matter of 3 weeks. And I think 3, 4, 5 of them was from Grand Bahama. And so because Grand Bahama, in fact, if you look at the archipelago of the Bahamas and this infrastructural preparedness, New Providence is absolutely saturated to the point that it cannot literally accommodate an employment factor of 100,000 people in the immediate future. And we have that much people right now, even before Dorian and COVID, that needed to be inserted into the economy. The numbers will show that we were lacking about 70,000 jobs. And so now, what you have COVID now, where 50% of the families are now living in poverty, and more than 50% of the jobs will most likely not come back because due to the rapid change of reconfiguration of how business is done. And so we now have an absolute need for Grand Bahama. The Grand Bahama has infrastructure, taking into consideration that Grand Bahama in 1955 was designed to accommodate 250,000 people, as much as the population of New Providence. We often talk about Singapore and other places. Let's use Singapore as an example. Freeport, not Grand Bahama, Freeport fits into Grand Bahama almost 4 times. But Freeport is only 30 square miles smaller than Singapore. Singapore has 6 million people. But Grand Bahama and Freeport as a whole has more infrastructural preparedness than Singapore does. And we look to them, and the world looks to Singapore as that point. We are sitting as the gateway to the Americas. We have 80% of the traffic that goes to the east coast of the U.S. travels through Bahamian waters. We have a digital infrastructure. We have an air type environment. We have almost everything that is needed to actually become the gateway for this region and, in fact, for the world. But the problem is that it all sits here. Now, I can tell you that Hutchison Whampoa are one of the 50% owners of the land. And oftentimes we talk about Grand Bahama. We often consider Hutchison Whampoa the 50% owner of Grand Bahama, but it's actually 50% of the land in Freeport. Take into consideration, I said to you that Freeport fits into Grand Bahama almost 4 times, so that means there's 3 times as much land on Grand Bahama as there is in Freeport. So there is no lack of availability of land for the economic development and catalyst of Grand Bahama, except when you want to lay blame to Grand Deception towards the Grand Bahama Port Authority and associated Hutchinson Whampoa. Now, one of the most powerful things is that we often rely on the so-called Hawks-Billick Agreement, which is nothing more than a defective illusion that has been perpetrated against the people since 1990, seeing that the Hawks-Billick Agreement called for some things that happened beginning in August of 1990. Now, what has happened since then, we often hear individuals say the Hawks-Billick Agreement extension. The Hawks-Billick Agreement is not an agreement. It's something to refer to as the Hawks-Billick Agreement, but the Hawks-Billick Agreement is an actual law. You can't modify law without striking it down. So the fact that if the law still exists, the Hawks-Billick Agreement has not been modified. Whatever has happened, though, is in 1993, is that a law was passed delaying, the key word there is delaying the implementation of certain tenets that was called for by the Hawks-Billick Agreement. And that extension has occurred under the FNM and the PLP, which is currently, as it stands right now, still in limbo as to what is going to be done. So there is no extension of the Hawks-Billick Agreement. But Grand Bahama designed for 250,000 people before we had vertical building as we know it in 1955. So Grand Bahama can easily incorporate not just all of New Providence, but much of the Caribbean that is in the process of being relocated, if we actually look at it from a development standpoint. When you talk about
let's take it from here. You started to talk more specifically about Grand Bahama is the key for economic development in Grand Bahama, and then all the Grand Bahama is the key for economic development in the Bahamas, right? And how all the politicians and leaders of various parties over the past 20 years have been able to kind of double down on that. And they continue to be able to push and drive that concept home. Now, if they would have known that, right, Grand Bahama, when restored, will be the economic boom or birth of the Bahamas itself, the new wave of the Bahamas, so forth and so on. Okay. Now, if they've known that, and they have a very clear understanding of that, why is there a relentless, perpetual delay, this kind of a stagnation and this limbo that exists in Grand Bahama at this time? Who is that benefiting? Who is that benefiting? It's not benefiting the people. It's definitely not benefiting the Port Authority or the politician. Who is it benefiting for there not to be productivity and growth in Grand Bahama at this time?
Well, it's benefiting the Port Authority indirectly because they get to continue to benefit from things of the Hawks-Billick Agreement for which they should not. They should be paying taxes on the land holding. They should be developing it and with penalties. So as long as we continue to delay this, which we have done for almost, 30 years, is that they get to continue to have the benefits of doing nothing. The Hutchinson Whampoa, we must remember, the Hutchinson Whampoa is one of the largest hospitality companies in the world. It's one of the largest shipping companies in the world. It's one of the largest harbors in the world. It's one of the largest telecommunications companies in the world. It's one of the largest medical facilities, medical infrastructure in the world. So they're well aware of the potential for Grand Bahama. I've talked to Hutchinson Whampoa over a decade ago, some principal in there. And the problem is that Hutchinson Whampoa is tired of being the girlfriend, the boyfriend or girlfriend of this situation where they provide the money and everybody else has the benefits. They have no interest in the Grand Bahama Port Authority or in its survival. However, they do have an interest in expanding their economic opportunities in the basin, for which they see huge potential, considering that most people assume that Hutchinson Whampoa is an extension of the red dragon. And so they know the benefits, but at the same time, they want constructive control beyond 50-50. But the leadership, I call them the 5-year celebrities, and oftentimes if you ask individuals, with all due respect, if you ask some members of parliament what is needed to be done before being elected, they'll tell you they don't know. But on the day of election, they'll tell you they know everything. The day after the election, if you were to call them, they won't know. In all respect, you made a referral to Hiram Dunant and Lewis.
You did the same thing that they do. This high-flying government, the Hiram Dunant. You need to stop. Go ahead.
But if you ask him before, he didn't know. If you ask him now, he does. I promise you, when he leaves office in the next 5 years, and you ask him, he won't know again. And so the problem is not the fact that they need not know. They want to portray that they do. Their simple job is to create policies and create laws and legislation and programs to actually facilitate what is to be done as opposed to doing it. And I think that's one of the greatest problems is that we have become a nation of dependence, depending on leaderships, 5-year celebrities, to do what we should be doing for ourselves. So essentially, we just basically have to demand. And when individuals like me, who have been advocating for almost 15 years, what we do is you have what's called a group think, whether it be the PLP on one side or the FNM. Let's use an example. For the last 4.5 years, I was considered someone with the ability to walk on water, and I'm not talking about frozen ice. When my advocacy, trying to get the FNM to do whatever and showing some of the critiquing, not criticizing what they were doing, I was considered that. Like, try and have me do it now, and I would be the devil. How dare I question what the PLP is doing now? But this went back and forth for the last 15 plus years. And so the problem is not that many of us know what to do. It's just that simply there's a system, a system of actually, I call it gangs. Here in the Bahamas, we talk about the Crips and the Bloods. The colors. Midsection with the blue, you lose your life. They don't know why they're fighting or why they're going against each other. And so essentially, while we basically have sought to destroy each other internally, the world itself has been preparing to meet us. And when they do, they will beat us. But Grand Bahama, going back to what Grand Bahama is, Grand Bahama is an ideal location for hospitality and tourism. Remembering that hospitality is what people experience and tourism is what people do. Grand Bahama was once the tourism epicenter, in spite of individuals believing that, I hear even members of parliament say Grand Bahama was never intended to be, a tourism destination. That's not true. If you go back and look at the plateau of hotels that existed in Grand Bahama over the years, you will see that Grand Bahama played an integral role in what the hotels were. So if you go and let's use an example. I don't know if you remember. The Butler's Vacation Village, Atlantic Beach Resort, Castaways Resort, Oceanas.
Yeah, I remember.
Inns, Lucine Harbor Inn and Marina, Lucine Beach, Shalimar, El Casino, Grand Bahama Club, Jack Tar Hotel, and Holiday Inn, and all these different hotels that were here. And so there is a potential for Grand Bahama to become a destination of choice. We have the beaches, we have golf courses, we have the geolocation, we have sun, sand, and sea, and we could reinstate the service that we once provided. And so, but Grand Bahama itself is also ideal, being the Bahamas as a totality is considered one of the most digitally prepared countries in the world. So if you actually take Freeport and treat it as a country, Freeport as a country will actually be the second most prepared country in the world. And so the question you have to ask yourself is, well, if we have the number 1 and number 2 prepared country in the world, why aren't we utilizing it? And there's an absolute reason for this grand deception. And the reason for that is developing Grand Bahama disrupt the power struggle, both the political and economic system.
Yeah, but as this concept and idea of a quasi-government, a government unto itself, self-governing territory who is responsible for its own growth and development.
All lies.
All lies.
Yes. All lies, because the Grand Bahama Port Authority in 1990 was envisioned to be evolved into a municipal government. From 1990, and one of the things that this is how local government came about in the Bahamas as a part of that deception. And so essentially what we have is local government, extremely local but no government. And you can compare local government in the Bahamas. And let me say that local government this was only enacted to allow this so-called delay in the Hospital Creek Agreement, even though it was given across the Bahamas.
Because I feel like it's a facade. I don't feel like it's real. I don't feel like there is, we're seeing now the Minister Clay Sweeting actually taking on a position and say that they need to be able to ensure that they have stronger elements to ensure that they can make their own finances, make their own decisions, and being able to give them a significant sense of autonomy. This is what he's talking about now, because for years we've been having this kind of a conversation. Whenever your government's in, we know that, the board members for any local government, they are for election at this particular point. Almost 100 people in Grand Bahama vying for various positions in local government. But we know that should swing from the FNM individual who support the FNM relentlessly into the support for the Progressive Liberal Party. I don't know. I mean, this is what we've seen over time. So is there an expectation that we see that again?
Yeah, what happens is, with all due respect, the Minister Clay Sweeting simply made a statement. And I could not substantiate any policy position that could come out of there or actions that could be taken. And so essentially, I would love for him to go beyond dreaming and actually lay out a policy. Because it's like wishful thinking. I wish that one day that this will be this, and this will be this, and this will be this, and I'll win the lottery, and this. And I'm simply saying that he's in a position not to talk about what is possible, but actually lay out a strategy for achieving it. But local government is like, it reminds me of my daughters when they were teenagers. I give them permission to stay out as late as they want, just be home by 8. They could wear whatever they want, long as I bought it. They could drink whatever they want, long as it's water. And so it's the illusion of choice. But in Freeport called for municipal governments, including self-taxation. The problem is what it was called for under the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. There's some caveat inside of this agreement that scares both the economic oligarchs as well as the plutocrats, because it called for the ability for self-governance and for self-taxation and self-determination under a municipal-type government. So essentially, MPs will be restricted strictly to policies from a national level. But here's what the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement said. It says that no laws should apply in this agreement in Freeport that doesn't apply to Bahamians everywhere. And so when you look, for instance, it calls for, say, a land registry. The land registry cannot occur in Freeport unless you give a land registry everywhere. If you apply taxes in Freeport to Bahamians, then you must apply taxes to Bahamians everywhere beyond just New Providence. If you are to give local governance, which is real municipal governance for self-taxation, and as much as 50% of the taxes to remain in the lowest jurisdiction where they could make the decision to do with it, and you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars here in Freeport alone, forget Grand Bahama, is that you would also have to give that law for the entire Bahamas. Because see, you can't make a law for Freeport for Bahamians and not make a law for everywhere else. So what happened is it would literally strip the oligarchs of the power struggle that they have for developing Freeport. Has become a mantra to maintain the lack of development in Freeport, and having the Grand Bahama Port Authority pretend that it still exists has been a facade to keep power and economics in the hands of few.
All right, let me take this commercial break. When we get back, I want to talk more about whether or not we find ourselves out of this kind of a limbo, out of this extended, this prolonged position that the Port Authority has actually been able to lobby for. Right? Over years, you can be able to ensure that in 1993, you tried to talk about it. You said that it was a law that was passed to ensure that the development or they delayed the implementation of these particular arrangements. I want to talk about in the event that we find ourselves out of that. Let's just say hypothetically it happens this season under this particular election cycle. Do you believe that there could be retroactive pay for economic obligations that they had to ensure that they take care of things in those areas? Do you believe that the government would seek their funds in these particular areas? I want to talk about that. We're talking a little bit about Grand Bahama, guys. We're talking about all manner of things. I want you guys to give me a call, 341-6673. Anywhere from the family of islands, 242-300, 6673-9494. On your live device, you get us right here in the studio. We're going to take this quick commercial break and be right back after this.
Real Talk Now with host Howard Grant will be back after this.
Butler's Funeral Homes and Crematorium has been here since 1953, and today we are still here, ready and equipped to care for you during one of the most difficult and agonizing times in your life, the death of a loved one. Allow us to guide you through this unfamiliar territory from start to finish. A friend is waiting to take your call at 393-3812. Butler's Funeral Homes and Crematorium, located York and Ernest Streets, East Bay. As impressive as required, as inexpensive as desired. Butler's Funeral Homes and Crematorium.
Real Talk Now is on the air. Call us now at 341-MORE or 341-6673.
This is a serious fella, man. Don't sleep on them.
I ain't gonna sleep on them.
Seriously, don't sleep on this boy.
Yes, sir.
He ain't got no heart at all. And they say thief from thief, God smile. I believe I think he believed in that.
Brand new phone? Can't find that. Time now? I just buy that. Oh Lord, brand new television. New Jordans. Gone missing. This way then sell my things. Cash for no God on my chains. Leave your things trying them not so lost. He'll thief the Lord off the cross. My girl can't find her rings. But don't lie, but you know it's you king. He just come out of jail last weekend. But you hit him in all over being. This way then start 3 lines. Make the punch like 15 times. No job, he rob instead. Think you could put that with the picky, yeah. Real talking team so tough. Then beef up all my stuff. When they catch me done for good. Hold on and think he has something in the bush. Hey, boy.
I ain't saying the boy does.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Real Talk Now with Howard Grant right here on the Nation Superstation. More 94 FM radio. We're live and in full effect. So happy to be with you today on this beautiful Tuesday. We're talking a little bit about Grand Bahama right now. And why is that? Because I don't know, I just feel indifferent about it. Whilst we're hearing about an increase, there's a significant reduction by this administration to be able to pull taxes down from 10%, down from 12% to 10%, right? In some quarters, is actually being able to see taxes apply. So we're hearing, due to economic travesty and what's happening with COVID, the pandemic, other things, we're seeing the supply line kind of being backed up, and we're seeing a great deal of things increase in the supermarket. Talk to me. I see mayonnaise almost $10. Y'all got to, listen, y'all gonna have potato salad with no mayonnaise in a minute. Y'all be sitting down here talking about, listen, we got to buy some chicken and get our own eggs. We can make it ourselves. I'm telling you, you're going to have to start to make some decisions amongst yourselves and amongst your family members to ensure that you can be able to retain some things, some sense of normalcy for your lifestyle, because the environment's not going to be normal anymore. And we're seeing that in Grand Bahama right now. Today's paper, you can be able to pick it up right there, the Tribune, right there, the bottom right-hand side. You can be able to see a little something. It says Grand Bahama rates rise. Rate rise set at 3.3%. Renewed calls were made last night for the independent regulator to take over supervision of the Freeport utilities after Grand Bahama Port Authority Company's base tariff hike was partially approved. It says that the Grand Bahama Port Authority's GPA decision to grant the island's sole energy provider an average rate increase of 3.3% as opposed to the 6.3% rise originally sought united both the private sector and community activists in opposition on the basis that any jump now is too much for battered economic struggling to revive from COVID-19 Hurricane Dorian. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. Regulators unto themselves regulate for an increase, and everyone else has to sit back and watch. This is what's happening. Now, we're afraid that this will actually spill out, because this is how I feel. We've seen this before. I'm going to be very clear. I always tell you that I'm a hotel man. I come from the hotel, and I was diligent in watching the environment, both internally in the hotel and externally in terms of how the government engaged the hotel. Now, when this introduction of what we've seen happen with Sarkis's Marillion and the Bahama Hotel, and I got Seattle on the line, so I'm going to be talking with him in 2 seconds, but I just want to get this out. When the introduction of Bahama came about, and then there was a social turbulence, and we saw Sarkis's Marillion from that standpoint being able to deal with what he had to deal with from a legal standpoint to ensure that his land was taken care of, that there was productivity from China Construction America, that we could be able to find those particular things in the heads of agreement, and he's kind of doing those things simultaneously. There was a pushback from a union perspective. Now, I don't know why y'all don't talk about this, but this is real. I tell you, I was watching the entire thing the entire time. I worked to the hotel, and I was responsible for accommodating every proverbial wolf that he brought from elsewhere, various territories, swimming through every piece of documentation, being able to sign off by the union. There was one point, and Nicole will tell you about this, that they said you couldn't even come on their property. So we had a union who actually enjoyed being able to travail any department at any time in the hotel, now standing on the outskirts of the hotel, yelling in. And this is as a result of the proverbial wolves that came in and dissected every part of the agreement between the union membership in the hotel. And after that, you know what we saw? We saw rate reduction. We saw a pulling back from gratuities. So the hotel would get a significant portion of the gratuities. The hotel would get all these things, and as a result of whatever was happening, it pulled back. And guess what happened? Other major hotels sat back and watched to see how the union was going to fight this, to see how the government was going to deal with this, and to see whether or not this was going to be something that they can be able to attack and be able to approach also. And just like clockwork, Sandoz watched the entire thing. And as Sandoz watched this, they shut the whole hotel down. Everyone was terminated, lost their jobs. They wasn't furloughed, they wasn't displaced. They lost their jobs and had to reapply. All the years that you've been working at the hotel that you could go to Commonwealth Bank or Bank of the Bahamas or Scotia Bank to say that I have years in this particular property, you lost those. And as a result of losing those, whilst you're looking on one hand from your economic standpoint to be able to make some money, simultaneously, you lost your position. So people just was taking jobs because they wanted jobs, because they needed jobs, but not understanding the intricacies, what happened behind the curtain and shifting the course of these things. This could be that again. Because organizations are just waiting to see how activists socially from the private sector, from the public sector, and others deal with these issues. They slide it on you. They slide it on you. We're talking with none other than C. Allen Johnson, all the way from Grand Bahama, and really talking to us about Grand Bahama. C. Allen, I want to talk more specifically about this rate rise. This set from 6.3% now. They actually almost like we do you a favor. It was going to be 6%. Seems like this is the exact same thing that we felt with the initial VAT, when it was supposed to be 15%, and then we ended up with it being at 7.5%. Talk to me about that, C. Allen.
Well, first of all, let's say that I am in agreement concerning the fact that the Grand Bahama Port Authority is conflicted with its regulation of the power company. In fact, I think that's a discussion that must be had. The government and the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the power company is in a legal dispute which can be resolved in 5 minutes. And that can be resolved by simply the government changing that aspect of the law that is in conflict with them taking over the regulation of the power on Grand Bahama and turning that over to IRCA. The problem is that I don't think that the government, in its truest sense, wants to do what is right, necessary for the people. So when you look at the needs for economic development in Grand Bahama, in fact, the entire Bahamas, energy plays a vital role in the 21st century, considering that technology accounts for 90%. It depends 90% on energy. And so I think that we must have a full context of what happened with this Grand Bahama electricity price hike. And I think it's nothing but a play on words. And even for the fact that there's supposed to be wide public consultation, the Grand Bahama Port Authority sat quietly for a number of weeks and simply had an online, supposed to be town meeting, which was really integrated for people to actually have input and properly be informed. And that town meeting itself is disappeared from the internet, and then they move ahead to approve this rate. I think that there's no, unless I'm mistaken, there's no room for variation of this rate price approved. You either approve it or disapprove it, and they can make another application if they want to reduce rate. And so these are questions that has to be answered by the government as well as the Grand Bahama Port Authority concerning this approval. The GBPC got what they wanted, and so I think they don't really owe a true explanation except to explain to us how they integrate in the government strategy, the Grand Bahama Port Authority strategy for the actual development of Grand Bahama and by extension the Bahamas. Now they are according to the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, which they often refer to, they're restricted to generation of power in the Freeport area. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing that prohibits the government of the Bahamas allowing individuals outside of Freeport to generate their own power. And now if you look at the Grand Bahama Power Company in itself, who like to make the claim concerning self-power generation, the Grand Bahama Power Company itself, in the purest sense, don't generate power. They actually buy power from themselves from the power generation plant, which is a standalone operation listed on DISIC. And so what you have is where mouth says one thing and action does another. And so there is an opportunity for us to fix this.
Did they move into that monopoly under themselves? I remember living in West Grand Bahama years ago. My uncle used to work to the power company down in Holmes Rock. I think it was in Holmes Rock, right?
Right. There was Holmes Rock in West End also, I think.
In West End also, because they Jackdaw had their own, right? But let me ask you this: do you believe that they monopolize this power generation under themselves?
They did. What happens is the contamination started in the 90s when the spin-off of the power company came out of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. If you go back to the Hawksbill Creek Agreement and read its intent, the power generation is supposed to be at cost plus a nominal fee for the upkeep of the infrastructure, etc. It's supposed to be, remember now, the power company is supposed to be buying power duty-free, VAT-free, and all these other different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so one have to then ask, then how is the rate competitive to us, to New Providence, when they have a huge advantage of not paying any type of taxes on their fuel? And so, but essentially what happens is when the Grand Bahama Port Authority, which in violation of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, began to sell assets that is supposed to be part of the whole, it's kind of like they say, you have peas and rice, and the guy says, oh, I'm sorry, we sold the peas separately, or we sold the thyme separately, or no tomato paste is in this peas and rice, And they said, don't worry, though, it's still designated as peas and rice. That's how we call the Grand Bahama Port Authority under the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. They have invested themselves of all of the assets, which makes the whole, but yet we run around calling that the agreement is still functioning. And so this is why the McKinsey report and other reports for Grand Bahama, which will show that the Grand Bahama Port Authority within itself is a bankrupt organization with the exception of the land holdings for which they depend on the water utility company.
How can nobody see that?
No, it's actually in the reports. It's in the reports, and if you have...
No, I'm not talking about from a report standpoint. I'm talking about socially to advocate that we eradicate this and move away from this and find some interdependence or independence for growth.
No, but see what happens is when individuals that knows what has to happen, they have influence on the media, and those individuals who don't want to give up power allows individuals like myself and others to be drowned out or deny us access to the media. And so what happens then is then you move into the groupthink where they say, okay, my party is in, nothing to be said. And so the other side goes, my party is nothing to be said. So they're actually playing against each other, what is necessary.
But doesn't that happen far too often? That an external entity will be able to come in and dangle a carrot before an activist, somebody who has to live in this environment, live with us on a day-to-day basis, who use their resources, use their power, use their particular things, recognize that the poor quality and the high rates that they continue to be able to levy upon the backs of the Bahamian people. And they say nothing. They say absolutely nothing. They just go along with it, whether it be the president, whether it be all the directors and all those particular persons within that sector. No one says anything. Everyone knows that this is wrong.
Right, because what happens is this has essentially become a company town. If you speak up, you will starve to death. Okay, you will not get businesses. People will not associate with you because they don't want to go down with you. And so essentially Grand Bahama, or as a whole, has become what Freeport used to be, a company town, even though the company doesn't exist except as a mirage. The Grand Bahama Port Authority, let's use an example. Since Dorian, the Grand Bahama Port Authority depends on license fees and from revenue from the utility company. The license fees disappeared by most of the businesses being destroyed by Dorian, so they had no revenue.
And this is why I'm fascinated. This is a facade. Why you really need to pay license fees in a district that don't really have any businesses, and you can pay $100 license fee on the outskirts right there in 8 Mile Rock or right there on the eastern side of Grand Bahama. I mean, I don't understand these things.
But it brings you to the point. What do you get from the Grand Bahama Port Authority?
Nothing.
License fees, nothing. But here's the point: you must get a Bahamas license before you get a license from the Port Authority.
So you need 2 licenses to get 1.
Yes, but listen carefully. That license, by paying them these hundreds if not thousands of dollars per year, allows you, they say, to partake of the benefits of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. Now, there's a 2-part to that. You only need a license, which they do not tell people. You only need a license in Freeport if you plan to partake of the benefits of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, which is duty-free consumption for yourself.
But that's only confined to the parameter of Freeport District itself.
Yeah, but let me finish this point. So you go to the government, you pay your license fee. You go to the Port Authority and you pay them, and you ask the Port Authority, what do you get? You don't get advocacy. You don't get business development. You don't get anything. If you need to partake of the benefits of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, you must go to government to get a bonded license. Bond letter. So, in essence, ask yourself, if I went to government for a license, I can't exist without it, including inland revenue, and then I go to government to get the benefits of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, what am I paying the Hawksbill Creek, the Grand Bahama Port Authority for? Okay.
And no one is asking these questions.
But individuals like me do. But let me go to ZNES or any of the media and ask for a press conference, and they will let me talk. In fact, they'll encourage me to talk for an hour so they can get their 3 minutes, and they'll never make the air. See, because what happens is that there's a form of suppression to keep out of New Providence the information for them to understand this jewel of the realm that sits within the country that will actually bring economic emancipation that was promised by our forefathers to them. And so what happens is, let's use an example. The Grand Bahama Port Authority, through its utility company, has done millions of dollars worth of damage in Storian by pumping salt water into businesses and homes for almost 2 years up until December 13th of last year. Now, what has happened is...
You mean with the Grand Bahama, with
the water,
DEVCO? With the water
company.
Okay.
The water company. Now, understand this. Because they had no revenue coming
Hold on.
in...
This heavy what you're saying to me.
Yes.
So the entire time after the hurricane, the water the reverse osmosis was broken? Something was wrong with it?
Oh, yeah, we've been getting dirty brackish salt.
So this is brackish. I knew I was in Grand
Bahama.
Bahama.
There's a key word. The key word is potable water. There's no potable water since September of 2019 have not been restored until December of 2021.
And this is why people will gravitate and run towards polymers to be able to use the water there.
Yes. So here's what happens, though. While they were pumping salt water into homes, it was destroying water heaters. It was corroding appliances and sinks and tubs and this and everything. But here's the point. They then started charging people. They said, we're going to give you a discount. Remember now, the law calls for potable water. They said, we're going to give you a discount on non-potable water that you're getting, which is not actually a discount. The 25% discount was not a discount. They were charging you 75% of water that was illegal for them to sell.
Wow.
And so, but you go to the media and ask them to ask of this, ask our leaders.
Now, let me ask you this question. What evidence do you have in terms of being able to see the pH balance, to see, to test the water, so forth and so on, to say that this was actually brackish water from any tap in Grand Bahama?
Evidence from myself and individuals all around. Just, you go to every single house on this island and ask them. And guess what? You can even take their word for it, They announced that we have finally reached potable status on December 13th. This is their announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if we just take them at their word.
So has anyone, the residents of Grand Bahama, you specifically, have you been able to see the difference between December 6th, 13th and now?
No, it's still between December 13th and now. There's, to me, I guess the system, because remember now, 2
you
years
the system.
Right, 2 years of, in spite of the water being potable coming out from the production site, is going to take a time. You know, like how you say you have scale and things that are developed in the system?
Yeah.
The fresh water, it will take a time to wash and flush through the entire system.
So it wasn't an illusion in my mind when we started, when I was in Grand Bahama the other day. I was in Grand Bahama in August of last year for being able to do a homegoing celebration for my mother-in-law. And I stayed at one of the hotels there, and the water was horrible. I couldn't lather the soap. And I said, well, this is in Grand Bahama. This is crazy, right? And I washed my face with it. My face was fire red. And I said, well, what's going on here? Now, I thought it was as a result of, over in East Grand Bahama, that the spill from, the Dorian, from the hurricane, and the oil that existed in those particular areas. I didn't know whether or not that penetrated the ground, and now we're having this issue. But you're saying to me that the issue was not necessarily oil. It was as a result of the non-potable water that they're actually pumping through the system.
Yes, actually, because the water system was contaminated and still has not been repaired. This is why they had to run to build a reverse osmosis system, because it'll be another few years before the water table is restored. But now the reverse osmosis system is supposedly cleaning up the water, and so essentially, and this is the reason for that is because again, the Grand Bahama Port Authority serves no purpose and does not exist. If the system was corrected over the last 30 years or given to municipal government, these things would not be happening.
But tell me this, why to say that it serves no purpose and it does not exist? They have a board, they have members, they have a president that looks a great deal like us here locally, that has been afforded an opportunity. We see now a current minister in her particular capacity as Minister for Grand Bahama. She served as vice president in those particular areas in the Grand Bahama Port Authority. If this has been years, has this non-productivity just happened over the last decade, or has it always been in existence post-1993?
It has always been deteriorated. Let's use an example. Let's go back and look. See, this is why you need a careful analysis of Grand Bahama and ask yourself, what has happened since Wallace Groves? And essentially, the Bahamas government has taken responsibility for Freeport and Grand Bahama as a whole, because every investor that has been brought to Freeport has been by the government of the Bahamas, not by the Grand Bahama Port Authority. They show up in my opinion, for picture purposes. Okay? So in essence, and those investments never was sustaining. And let's go to this hotel that you talk about. And so when you look from the date that was open, that has never been a profitable operation from the date it has been open. In fact, I would put to you that Hutchinson Whampoa was forced to buy that hotel from the current owners at the time, which was actually, believe it or not, the former prime minister was the president of the group of people that sold the hotel to Hutchinson Whampoa. And so, isn't it ironic that he sold them a hotel that they didn't want, and they sold him a hotel that they didn't want back?
Wow.
Okay, and so if you don't know the history, you could understand how Hutchinson was saying, "You got us then, we get you now." That's why they were able to sell a hotel to us.
But let me ask you this question, because I worked at the hotel for years, and I recognize that this is a beautiful spot, whether it's the Lanai, whether it's Breakers Key, whether it's Manor House, whether it's over at the Reef Village, Lighthouse Point. It was a beautiful property. There's a great deal of memories that was built there, a great deal of people that continue to return year after year after year after year. Pelican Bay is doing a wonderful job over across the street. They continue to thrive in an economic downfall in the economy right now. After all of this, is there only an issue between the powers that be, that this power struggle to be able to find themselves propped up in an economic situation, that being able to support whatever objectives or agenda that they have? Is that the fight that they're having? Because it cannot be the tourism factor.
No, it's finished. The fight is finished, because Hutchinson has now removed itself except for the monies that is still owed. Because essentially the hotel itself has moved to the point that the hotel itself can't even be insured because of being struck 3 times by hurricane.
So where and when will we see economic recovery as it relates to development from the tourism standpoint? Where and when?
Right now. See, what happens is, let's look at the whole thing. The fact is this: you can have a diamond, but the real value comes from when it's polished. So we discovered this diamond called Alokaya, and a infrastructural development around it is never established in Bahama, a hospitality strategy for the island. And because why? The Grand Bahama Port Authority was only concerned about its extraction for whatever it's coming, not about economic development. And so essentially, the economic development of Grand Bahama, again, I put to you, will break the back of the plutocrats and the oligarchs in the country, because they do not have control of the Grand Bahama economy, the Grand Bahama ports, or the Grand Bahama airport.
Yeah, but this is going to lead into something different. We can take a different turn with the conversation right now, because it's going to lead into something different. If we have 100 people in Grand Bahama eager to be able to get involved in local government on that tier, no matter what the facade is that local government is, there are people that are eager to get involved in what they perceive to be an opportunity to change their environment. So they get 100 people eager to get involved in local government.
Yeah, so they're eager to become distributors of whatever is handed to them. Local government should be the ability to localize the decision-making process for your own economic development in concert with a national development strategy and plan. And I'm saying to you, I agree with with Robert Myers, where you say the Bahamas is a Caribbean Singapore waiting to be happen, and we could hit, we could double, if not 50% to double our GDP in the shortest period of time. And believe it or not, all of that can happen on Grand Bahama if we stop and take a look of exactly where we are, who we are, and what we intended to be.
Mm-hmm.
Forget trying to maintain the facade that we have had for at least from 19.
You think that's bubbling from the surface now? You think that's the question that I'm asking? Because let's say out of the 100%, out of the 100 people that are vying for this, let's give them 25% who are consciously aware that this is only a facade of local government that seeks to be able to get themselves in position to take care of themselves, their families, their lovers. So, okay, that's 25%. 75 people are vying for local government who are oblivious to the fact that this is not necessarily real, this is not the proper structure, so forth and so on, but they are craving, they have a desire to be able to change a system. Now, my question to you is this. If we see this kind of bubbling, and it's actually, you could see it mirrored throughout the entire, because there's 92 other districts, and 500 people are vying for those particular districts. Now, watch me. The question that I have for you is this. If we're seeing all these come to the forefront, doesn't the leadership, whether it be of Grand Bahama Port Authority, whether it be the leadership of our country, don't they recognize that there will be an uprising and that people will take over and it will come with force if they don't actually recede and ensure that they align themselves properly for growth in the country?
But this isn't for me. This isn't a Grand Bahama local government issue. Local government is a fork at a soup eating, and so what I'm simply saying to you is that the Bahamas itself is coming to a point that something has to happen to the economic rebirth of the country from the effect of Dorian, the effect of COVID, and the fact of the power generation in this country has been as much detriment as COVID and Dorian itself. And I think the people of the Bahamas is hungry for a change. As it stands right now, the government will tell you 50% of the Bahamian household in this country is now at or below the poverty line. And so what is happening now, there is a need. And so what you may see is government trying to find a way to massage the movement forward without relinquishing power. Power will not give itself, or power must be taken. And so the problem is that the Bahamian people themselves must now arm themselves with information and begin to demand individually of their MPs, not of government as a whole, change that is necessary.
Well, let me take this quick commercial break, C. Allen. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be a part of the conversation, I know we're diving into it. I know we're chopping it up. I know you may be oblivious to some of these particular things. I know you may not necessarily know the nuances generally of what's happening, but you understand. You understand intimately. You understand that there's some wool getting pulled over people's eyes. You understand that there is a shifting. There is this kind of an idea of an us against them against us. That corporations who seek to be able to mine our resources out of this country, whether that be our labor, whether that be our finances, whether that be our talent, our innovation, our creativity, they are that proverbial vacuum. You ever watch these sci-fi movies when the aliens come from space and they drop this big ship into the ocean and just start mining the ocean? This is what corporations are doing to us as we continue to sit oblivious until the river runs dry. We have to have good conversations about this. And I commend the 617 persons that are vying for local government. Whatever fork this is at the soup eating, we understand one thing, that you're eager. You're eager to do something. Now, what we need is economic empowerment, education, and a very clear agenda in unity to be able to get to an objective. Let's take this commercial break and be right back. Guys, give me a call, be a part of the conversation. We're going to get back and chop it up with C. Allen right after this.
Real Talk Now with Howard Grant. We'll be right back.
The Ultimate Game Day Bundle is back, and Domino's is delivering new ways to win. Grab 2 hot and delicious medium one-topping pizzas, 8-piece wings, and a 2-liter soda for $25.99, and enter to win the Ultimate Game Day Party. That's a Domino's party. Snacks from Island Wholesale, beverages from Bristol, $1,200 Alive voucher, and a 50-inch flat-screen smart TV, courtesy of Costra. Winners selected in Nassau and Freeport February 12th. Scratch and win every time you purchase. Order online now. Domino's, better than ever.
Real Talk Now is on the air. PTC customers can call toll-free from the Family Islands on 1-242-300-6673. And if you're an Alive customer, dial 9494 toll-free.
That I could love only you. I wish that I could forever be true. I wish that I could always stay by your side. But I find I can't hold back this time. I've got to be free. 'Cause freedom is something.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Real Talk Now with Howard Grant. I wish that I could love only you. That's the heaviest thing I ever heard in my life. What is keeping you back from loving only me, Ronnie? You need to stop it. As the late, great Ronnie Butler. Ladies and gentlemen, so happy that you're in my company today, that I'm in your company, rather. I want to thank you so very kindly. If you want to be a part of the conversation today, give me a call, 341-6673, 341-6673. You get me right here in the studio, 9494 on your live device. Or if you're out there, out in the ether, out in the family of islands, out in the diaspora, and you're listening in, that's 300-6673, 300-6673. We're having a good conversation. I don't know whether or not you're following along. I know I got some genius out there, but I don't know whether or not you're following along. I am convinced that there needs to be an uprising in the country. Man, I don't ever want to tell you that we have to be able to, I don't believe that there should be bloodshed, but I believe that there should be at least a position that you take strongly with any administration, any government, to say that we can no longer take this. The world is changing. The entire world is shifting and preparing for the next proverbial wave, the next pandemic, the next epidemic, and trying to ensure that their bunkers are filled, whether that be technology, opportunity, whatever that is. They're continuing to stuff their bunkers, their safe holes, their havens. And we lay wait out here in the Atlantic Ocean, exposed, not knowing to go left or right, seeking a savior relentlessly, and never diving into ourselves, never understanding the strength that we have, and not knowing that we were called for this time to make some things happen. That's where we are. And if you don't have a very clear understanding of waking up without being able to put your political colors on, like C. Allen called it, your gang war colors, your Bloods and your Crips. Well, it can't be the Crips. It got to be the Yokes or something. I don't know. You're looking at these particular things without a very clear understanding that there will come a time that we must fight. That's me, In my youth, I didn't want to have any kids in United States of America. As I get older, maybe I didn't make the right decision in my mind, but I kind of still anchored to that. I did not want to, because I had opportunity after three opportunities I had. I did not want to have my kids in the States because I knew that there would come a time where there will be global calamity. And those persons that are born of foreign parents living in the United States of America, their children will be like the proverbial Uriah at the heat of the battle. I felt that in my youth. And I said, my safe haven is the Bahamas. And now, before the proverbial Armageddon begins the world over, it coming here and mining out our culture, mining out our resources on a constant basis. Corporations are coming. And guess who's ushering them in? This is neocolonialism 101. Guess who's ushering them in? Our kings. The men and women that we've put at the top of the tribe are now opening the doors to these savages. See, because you call it slavery and this pillaging, you see it in a different light. But it's the same thing that exists now. You still have the same structure and the same layout. The persons are coming in. They're identifying the influential persons, capturing them, paying them off, and now causing the entire environment to shift because of this persuasion, this position. When and where will we see the change? How will we get together and fight? Not at each other, And listen to me. We're watching it play out before our eyes, and we don't even know. We're watching it play out before our very eyes, and no one is saying anything about it. McCafferty Enterprises came and bring this whole carnival debacle the other day and pitted the Free National Movement against the PLP. No one said anything. The man said he spoke to the Prime Minister and he's going to talk to some other political persons to find out if he could persuade them. The next day we saw a senator stand up and read a letter in the Senate that actually debunked what the Prime Minister in his particular capacity has said. Whether right or wrong, no one recognizes that external entities are coming into our country, pitting us against each other. We're talking with C. Allen. We're talking all manner of things today. If you want to be a part of the conversation, 341-6673. Anywhere from the family of islands, 242-300-6673. 9494 here in the live on your live device. You get us right here in the studio, or check us out, More 94 FM on Facebook. More 94 FM on Facebook. C. Allen, go ahead, my brother. You with us? Go ahead.
Yes. Just let me go back to saying that the economic potential for Grand Bahama has the ability to literally double the Bahamas GDP. If you look at the fact that, and this is where the problem that the hotel is going to face, let's look at the fact that the airport had to be sold by Hutchison Whampoa to the government, because unless they themselves was going to carry the liability for it, because after being struck 3 times, no insurance company would give it insurance anymore. The hotel itself is suffering the same blow. And so this is the problem you're going to have.
So $150 million and you can't get no insurance?
No, right, you can't. You will not.
Well, who the hell can spend $150 million and you can't get no insurance?
Well, if you actually build some new buildings, you maybe have to, but just for the location itself, it's going to pose some threat. So this is essentially, you almost need a sovereign insurance guarantee from the government of the Bahamas for the airport and for that hotel. But it's the problem. It's doable if you keep using the old mindset. And you touched on RWAC-X. And I'm truly impressed with the platform that RWAC-X is putting forth right now, because I have been working on a similar platform for a number of years, for about the same time they have. Just that mine goes, being a digital native, 41 years in the industry, my platform is a little more in-depth and future-focused as to what is coming as opposed to what is here. And I've been engaged with them to see how we could work collaboratively to bring about what is necessary to give Bahamians access to the resources they need for the economic development of the country. And so hopefully in the shortest period of time, an announcement of cooperation or coexistence will come out of our conversation. But when you look at the fact that what they present and what I'm presenting provides a unique opportunity for 100% ownership of the Bahamian economy, including the tourism industry, it poses a threat in spite of the accolades that may be given by the political leadership. It poses a threat to their development, also for Grand Bahama. Let's use an example. Utilizing the crowdfunding platform and other things that's out there, you could very easily meet and a survey has determined that on Grand Bahama, unless we had hit 10,000 rooms in hotel rooms, we will never be able to reach what.
What's the number at now? 98?
Yeah, probably 100 or something. And so, but what I'm saying, for the 10,000 rooms, here's the point. For the point of net zero means that, yes, you have the hotel rooms, but for net zero means for people like for Harvard to come and open up a restaurant, a nightclub, tours, and ever, for them to just break even. What I mean by break even, you'll be able to pay yourself a salary, pay everybody, and function, but not make a significant profit.
So I just working to live. I ain't seeing no profit.
Right, that's net zero. But if we were to hit 20,000 rooms, which you'll have as a new economic model that easily pumps $1.5 billion a year into the direct into the into Grand Bahama economy per year in developing the tourism platform. But here's the problem with that. If you can't get some foreigners, which is what we're trying to do with the hotel as an example, be true to you, only 534 rooms is really salvageable out of that hotel, and that is the Grand Lucaya building as opposed to the Memories building that must be torn down due to asbestos and other issues in there. You have an absolute upgrade needed at the Point Lighthouse
Point.
And so essentially, it's really 534 rooms that may be salvageable. But for that hotel itself to become viable, it needs probably about 2,000 rooms to function. So, but here's the problem, though. It will not function itself unless you have the airport open and at least 10 to 20,000 additional rooms across Grand Bahama. No, I didn't.
Do you believe that in the event that we do...
But we can do this. We can do this.
Well, let's say we get the 10,000 rooms in commitment, memorandum of understanding, letter of intent, to be able to develop these particular things, brands...
Let me just say this, though. The memorandum of understanding I'm talking about is using the platform that I intend to reveal as well as RWAC-X has out there. We don't need foreigners to do this.
So you're saying crowdfunding could be able to help us, group economics could be able to assist us, empowerment to get to the objective?
Yes, we can, and we can do this in less than 18 months.
Okay, so let me ask you this particular question now, because there's some other things, some other activities that are happening globally, and I don't know whether or not we're being able to marry the two. Let's talk about it. So in the event that we now get to the 10,000 rooms in Grand Bahama, more specifically to be able to find ourselves at surplus beyond net zero, being able to make something for ourselves, and we have these ideas to say we can move towards that. Okay, now, do you believe that there is a commitment regionally, within our neighbors to the north right there, to be able to recommit themselves in coming to this beautiful destination that is the Bahamas? Or do you believe that they're being wooed by places like Dubai, who is not only mining our culture, but has the resources, the planes, the gas, the oil, the this, the that, and could be able to reduce their prices significantly to offer you this kind of proverbial exotic location and remote location out there in the Gulf of Persia? Talk to me about those particular things. Does anyone recognize that if we don't work fast and being able to work with the enthusiasm and clear understanding that we must secure our position, then other entities externally who working, whether that be Hawaii, whether that be Puerto Rico, whether that be Dubai, they're looking at opportunities that we used to be the number one in, and seeking to be able to kind of infringe on our territory. Does anybody see that?
Yeah, but let me just say this. We were number one because of 4 reasons: sun, sand, sea, and service. We lost our position when we abandoned service. We still naturally have sun, sand, and sea. That's nothing we created. That's something God gave us. We also have the geolocation. We are ideally located, and because of our nimbleness, we can turn faster than those cruise ships in our speedboats. We just now have to innovate our product. To innovate, it means to make changes in something that has been established by introducing new methods, ideas, and products. And so the problem is we are trying to sell old products to a new generation of travelers. And so we have not changed to accommodate what they require. We have not digitized. We have not made utilization. So when you look at Grand Bahama, as we're talking about Grand Bahama is an ideal platform. Notice I used the word Grand Bahama, not, again, Freeport. So when you go back to the S&M platform of ecotourism in East Grand Bahama, technology and industry in Central Grand Bahama, and cultural and heritage tourism in West Grand Bahama, that was an ideal plan. Now, look at the PLP platform right now, where they're talking about adopting the very thing. They're just not saying it in the exact same words. They're using words like the green economy. The green economy is the ecotourism in East Grand Bahama. They're saying the orange economy. They're saying which is the same culture and heritage. And they're saying the same thing, just in different words. So what I'm simply saying is that the opportunity is here, but we must actually come back and see Grand Bahama reimagined, to build back stronger together. And that's, for us, that's Abaco as well as Grand Bahama. Together, I'm saying to you, the possibilities are exponential. We must see Grand Bahama as now, and Abaco, as a place to live, work, study, play, visit, explore, invest, dine, and shop. And so we must then look at this place where we can do it. Start with smart homes, smart businesses, smart communities, smart cities, which then becomes the smart island, which will influence the smart country. And so we just have to define an innovative strategy to develop succinctly these economic models that the Progressive Party and the F&M in the previous expound: the digital economy, the conceptual economy, the knowledge economy, the green economy, the blue economy, the aquamarine economy, and the orange economy. All of these are built on a master digital economy for which the world is shifting to. And so the problem is that we need leadership that comes outside of the walls of Cabinet and the House of Assembly and believes that the intellectual capital does not lie in 55 individuals, 39 in House of Assembly and 16 in the Senate, and amongst your family, friends, lovers, supporters, financiers, and foreigners that is needed to develop this country. It lies in all of us as a collective intelligence. The very thing that the world is seeking to do, called data, called artificial intelligence, but we have that as a collective Bahamians that is native to this environment, and nobody knows the Bahamas like Bahamians. And so what we have to then do is look, as you said, North America. If we need for Grand Bahama, if we take the 20,000 rooms, the rooms alone, and you look at the hotel, right? Forget the whole concept of the daily, where we have people come here by weekly. So essentially, we're only talking about 1 million people coming to Freeport. We brag with 400,000 people, but they come on, and these 7 million people that come to the Bahamas, they come in hotels, inclusive hotels called cruise ships. We must flip that model and have the people come by air to have the Bahamian experience rather than the Bahamian excursion on the ship. And so they come here, and they use Grand Bahama. We talk about health tourism. We talk about retiring to the Bahamas. We talk about the nomads. We talk about digital environment. We talk about all of these things. Notice I use the word tourism, which is all a subset of the hospitality. Hospitality is what people experience. Tourism is what people do. So when we say we talk about sports tourism, that's what they're doing. When we say health, that's what they're doing. When we say religious, that's what they're doing. When we say culinary, that's what they're doing. When we say cultural, that's what they're doing. See, I'm simply saying is that Grand Bahama has the land mass to accommodate this, and the infrastructure, at least from Freeport perspective, going down to Western and 8 Mile Rock, that is already in place. And in East Grand Bahama, nothing major is disrupt you from putting it in place. And so what I'm simply saying is you cannot find a place anywhere in the world where you sit in the middle of the technological commerce, you sit in the middle of the global commerce that happens. You can't find a more ideal location. You say location is everything, then the Bahamas is, and Grand Bahama by extension, is sitting at the most ideal location for the economic Singaporean revolution of the Caribbean.
So the only reason that we haven't found ourselves in this space is because of lackluster leadership. That's it.
Leadership.
Leadership that void of vision and have a very clear understanding of what's beyond their nose.
Right. What is and what can be. Here's why. Because leadership in the Bahamas wants to be the star 5-year celebrities. See, if they talk about people like Bill Gates or even the guy from FTX and Musk and the rest of them, right? And they talk about them, but they don't emulate them. If you emulate them, you would realize.
But that's a mindset. You know that, though, C. Allen. You know that the mindset is, especially for islanders, the belief that our ability to be able to think beyond our borders is extremely difficult. That's why I believe that we need more exposure, more very clear understanding, because people believe that this window called their telephone is only a window into the world, but not an opportunity for them to kind of dive in and see expansion for themselves. Yeah. When and where will this kind of inflection come where people could see themselves beyond just being able to provide service and being a participant in their own growth and development in the economy?
But here's the thing. If you look at these companies we talk about, right? What you have is leadership, right, that actually finds capable people to bring about what happens in the back. But essentially, when it's needed, the leadership of those companies don't come to the public and mimic knowledge. Mm-hmm. So essentially, what we need is leadership that actually understands to put forth ideas and find individuals to build those ideas,
mm-hmm.
To influence action and activity, not to say, I did it. And so when we go back to why do you elect MPs? You elect them for laws and legislation, policies and programs. So if they actually realize is that they can take credit for the policies and legislation and programs that bring about the new Bahamas, they will get the accolades that Elon Musk and the rest of them do by moving out of the way to allow people to build their lives and their wealth. And so I'm saying to you, we are now at the cups of the Bahamas. We are now facing an economic crisis. We're facing an educational crisis. We're facing a housing crisis. We're facing an immigration crisis. I mean, it's crisis and everything. It's really nothing in this country, with all due respect, you can actually point to that actually functions the way it should function. And I'm saying to you, this is the time for us to pause. And I challenge you, and this is what we have to do. I challenge you, Howard, to call on your break, call a travel agency, and tell them that you would like to take a vacation to Paris. And when they ask you where you want to leave from, say, I don't know. Call another travel agent, and this time say, hey, I'm here on New Providence, I want a vacation. And then they say, where you want to go? Say, I don't know. Meaning what? You must know where you are, where you want to go to plot a path. And we have never paused to be honest of exactly where we are, or to move to our collective intelligence to plot a path as to where we want to go. And so what we do is we keep collecting 5-year celebrities whose job is to gaslight us and to believing that they are making progress, and then we spend at least half of the time looking back, blaming the other people for what they didn't do. Now, here's the point. Success is based on what you did, based on what you were capable of doing, not how well you did based on how bad somebody else do. And we're good at that. We're good at saying, well, we did great. If you just look at Haiti, look at what Haiti doing. We are doing good. If you look, so we always look for justify in somebody else's failure as to our success. When we should say, this is who we are, this is what we are capable of doing. We did not meet that benchmark, but we will the next time. And so when we begin to do that, and then we begin to believe that each one helped one. And so when you look at RWAC-X and you look at the $7 platform that's coming, what we have to do is allow it to mature to the point where individuals who think their dependency, who think their survival depends on the state of their political party to exist, will know there's opportunities for them. Let's use an example: 20,000 rooms on Grand Bahama. We need significantly more. What if we go to bed and breakfasts where we have boutique hotels, or just begin to give 2 rooms per person? Literally speaking, 2 rooms, 2 apartments in every family would generate 20,000 millionaires in 10 years. And I can provide the numbers. So the question then becomes then why do we then look for foreigners? who will come and build a mega hotel, all-inclusive, where we just have benefit jobs, just over broke suckers in a just over broke system, as opposed to saying, why not create a strategy for a build-out of bed and breakfasts across Grand Bahama, considering the land mass there is, so that we can then just develop a tourism, a hospitality product, and we then begin to market it. See, the build-out of that product as we begin to market the future will allow us to carry it, because the construction industry will carry not just Grand Bahama. Do you know what building 20,000 rooms, and remember now, as you begin to build these rooms, you now must build homes for individuals who are going to come and live, work, and play here. So then you now have an environment you've created for a digital environment where these digital nomads, where people like the people from FTX and others, who would now could get the power they need, who can have the stability of the connectivity they need to come into the country and begin to live amongst us the way they do in Singapore. Singapore got 6 million people, but only 2 million citizens. You don't see them worried about, oh, they're going to be overtaken, overthrown, right? We can build these protections within our system in less than weeks or months at best. And open up the... See, literally speaking, if we move to protect our citizenship, just open the country. So almost like you say, you don't even need a passport to come to the Bahamas, a visa or passport. But here's what you need to do. These are the rules. We can eliminate... This just a little quick bar. We can eliminate... You see this immigration problem, the Commodore and everything they talk about? One computer in the cloud right now, I could call Amazon, and we could write a program today to fix immigration in 48 hours. Because simply what we'll do, we'll write a program to say that everybody working in the Bahamas must be registered, and you'll be fine. So imagine Howard. I say to the people, Howard owns this restaurant. I said, Howard will be fined $10,000 for every person that illegally works there. And I tell the people around the Bahamas, we'll give you $2,000 for any tip of anybody working illegally.
People policing people. You police yourself. Yeah.
Howard, Howard, you at work, you go to work, right? And you look to the guy, you look over to the DJ and say, man, you ain't got your paperwork ready yet? He said, nah, man, I still working on it. You say, can you just give me a minute? I got to call my wife. You go inside. Immigration? So what I'm simply saying is this, but here's the point. When you enter into the Bahamas, you must, if you don't live here as a citizen, you must show proof of where you live. You must show proof of rent. See, so when you begin to put all of these part of a system, now you have the blockchain that we so much talk about in DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization type thing, where you can't modify. There's no subject to corruption. You now have it where, literally speaking, a person can't enter the Bahamas or live in Shantytown or anywhere and get a work permit or even work anywhere. Now, here's why they're coming. They're coming because they feel they can integrate. So if you actually get rid of the sweetener for which they're coming for, they're going to find someplace else to go.
Yeah, they have to.
Right, and so what I'm simply saying, but illegal immigration in the Bahamas is $1 billion a year thing. Here's what it is. If we have over 50,000 individuals that's here, that's undocumented, just pay them $100 less per year, and you've had $500 million you save. Now that the rest of the payments must also work for the press economy from another $100 a week less, you've now saved another $1 billion in salary. So you see, you have saved $1 billion and $1.5 billion in salaries by keeping a depressed economy to illegal immigration.
See, Alan, you did a wonderful job today. I want to let you know that you're always enthusiastic in being able to give us good information about where we are as a nation and where we need to go. I love this conversation about group economics. I'm just reading up on some information with Dr. Claude Anderson, who's talking about powernomics and the necessity for being able to find group economics for liberation and opportunity. Now, that's amongst black people, but this is a conversation that we're having with a significantly black population, with an understanding that the core of where we find our strength and how we found growth when we couldn't enter the banks, when we couldn't enter these places, is with group economics. That's what the ASU. And we got to get back to that.
Yeah, but let me say this, Howard, right? You are in a strong position of advocacy as a voice, knowing that your home is the linchpin to the promise made by our forefathers of financial empowerment. And so I think now, knowing when we begin to show what Grand Bahama is possible, you can become one of the voices that join in that leadership conversation. I'm simply saying, Grand Bahama have enough to empty New Providence and room for more. And the infrastructure is here for our economic development and empowerment. We just need to have the conversation.
I love it, my brother. Thank you so very kindly for your conversation. Thank you so very kindly for your time today. Ladies and gentlemen, that was none other than C. Alan Johnson being able to give us good information about these things. And I'm hoping that you're empowered with a very clear understanding of where we're moving and where we're moving toward. This is not only an application for Grand Bahama, this is who we are as a people. If we do not find ourselves diving deep within ourselves to find strength, to get out here and move together in unison, and united to be able to get to one objective, then we're going to fall. The world ain't playing no games. They're coming to eat our lunch. We need to get on board to make some things happen in the country. And that can't happen more with this kind of casual approach. Like C. Allen says, 5 years, these 5-year movie stars. That's what they are. A great deal of persons get in this for the wrong reasons. We need to find those persons who have passion for our community, who are pouring into it, and don't need to be able to get nothing from nobody. I don't need no F&M to take care of me. I don't need no PLP to take care of me. I'm good on my own. This is what we need to see in the country. We're going to take this quick commercial break and be right back. The lines are going to be open after this.
Real Talk Now with host Howard Grant will be back after this.
The Ultimate Game Day Bundle is back, and Domino's is delivering new ways to win. Grab 2 hot and delicious medium 1-topping pizzas, piece wings, and a 2-liter soda for $25.99 and enter to win the Ultimate Game Day Party. That's a Domino's party. Snacks from Island Wholesale, beverages from Bristol, $1,200 Alive voucher, and a 50-inch flat screen smart TV courtesy of Costrack. Winners selected in Nassau and Freeport February 12th. Scratch and win every time you purchase. Order online now. Domino's, better than ever.
Real Talk Now continues right now with Howard Grant, only on More 94.
You know I'm legal when I come to you. You give me food, clothes, and protection too. You say don't worry about a thing, just show your loyalty, the comfort that you'll bring. When I look around, I got papers and passport waiting on my knees, so a song gonna be great. But lady tells me that for family, she can clean me out and I am the clothes for me. Confidential, it's a confidential thing. This matter is serious, we don't know what it will bring. Confidential.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Real Talk Now with Howard Grant right here on the Nation Superstation, More 94 FM radio. Tomorrow, I want to do a little something different with you. I got an idea to be able to bring some young persons in the studio to really have a good conversation. A cross-section for productivity and growth, where they see the country now. There's kind of an idea of being able to extract themselves from the country and move elsewhere for growth. I want to have that conversation tomorrow. I don't know who to, I'm thinking about, a few persons, but I don't know who to speak to specifically to do that. If you're out there and you're kind of eager to dive into the conversation, I want to open it to you. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you want to kind of dive in and be here in studio with me tomorrow, and you are under the age of 27, can I say that? Is it 27? Is 27 good? Let's do 30. If you're under 30, let's go 30 and under, right? Let's just be decent, right? If you're 30 and under, right? And you're well, Jesus, Howard, I still think like a young man, don't mind me, 58. Sir, stop it. Just stop it. Don't even do it to me today. I'm not prepared. But if you want to be able to dive into the conversation and talk about where we are, whether it be looking at the other side of the coin for this Dubai trip, whether it be this tech development and what ROX is doing, whether it be the idea of our governments continuing to move into and invest into brick and mortar, and not necessarily looking at technology and being able to expand in those areas. Whatever manner of conversation that you want to be able to have, I'd like to talk with you about that. Not necessarily about relationships. I know y'all young people want to talk about relationships. Oh, Jesus, you need to stop it. I'm not today, okay? We could find another day. Maybe we find a Friday to have that conversation. Tomorrow, I want to talk about national growth and development. I want to talk about where we are as a nation, through your eyes, through the eyes of the youth, through the eyes of young people, 30 and under, okay? 30 and under. I don't even mind if you're 12 years old and you want to come in here and have a good conversation about these things. If you have a grasp of of what's happening nationally and you have an opinion, I'd like to hear from you. You give me a call. 827-0111. 827-0111. Howard, my nephew, would be excellent for that, man. This boy wouldn't shut up. He always got some ideas to do this, and that. Give me his number. Give me a text.
827-0111. 827-0111. You get me right here. And that's actually the Help Me Howard line. I got a couple calls on that, so I'm going to make some calls today to be able to see where we are as we move forward. But it's very important, man. I've had significant conversations with persons that are older than I am. I'm 40 years old. I don't know whether or not I actually, passed the mark already. Is this the top of the hill? Do we go down from here? I don't know, right? I don't know where we are. I don't know what part of the hill I am, right? I feel like I'm coming up. I still feel like this is the rough side of the mountain. Talk to me. I don't know if this is the economic situation and otherwise, but I still feel like we're going up, right? But, my age may say to me that you've reached this inflection where you've hit the pinnacle of where you are in your life, and it's downhill from here. I don't know. But whatever that is, I need to hear from youth. I need to hear from youth because I don't know whether my kids are enthusiastic about what they want to do in this country. I don't know whether or not, and listen, I don't know whether or not I'm enthusiastic to encourage them to do anything. And this is coming from a man who've made a conscious decision to have his children here in this country. Listen, all y'all, I don't know, you may not have had a chance. You had to go to Princess Margaret. You had to go to the Rand Memorial Hospital. You had to go wherever you had to go locally. That's your business. I didn't got nothing to do with me. I'm saying to you, I was able to choose. And I made a conscious decision to have my children be born here in the Bahamas. I wanted that. I'm afraid of whatever happens. I don't know whether or not because I was wrapped up in the Armageddon part of the Bible talking about the World War III and all these things. I don't want my children to get killed elsewhere. I don't know. I did all that I can do to be able to try to preserve the cultural heritage of who we are, and I had envisioned where I want to be able to see them. It's 16 years later. This year makes 16 years I had children. Well, I was practicing before that. Praise God. Right? 16 years I had kids. That's this year. And after all of that, I now, because hindsight is 2020. And I'm looking back, asking myself whether or not I made the right decision. Should I let the children be born in the States? Should we have gone to the States and do the thing over there? Should I have done that to provide them an opportunity to be able to move elsewhere? If I got a next one, should I be like Cindy Patrice Jackson and have a Canadian baby? Get the Canadian baby! Should we do that? Is there nothing here that exists for us? Is there no opportunities that exist for younger persons? I've been squeezed out of major opportunities in this country. I'm talking about from no political standpoint. I'm talking about opportunities for me to be able to put my family in a better financial position because of my dependency or the idea of being able to incorporate some level of politics in what I do. Silly of me. Absolutely silly of me. Believing in my naive nature that these men and women seek to be able to do the right thing. I had an opportunity, and I ain't gonna call no names, but if he listening, he know exactly who he is. I had an opportunity to, there were 15 to 20, I don't know how these things happen, okay? Don't fight me. You're in a different position that I am. And, people listen every day to the radio. They're looking for a voice. They're listening to these particular things. And they suggest that maybe you try Howard, or maybe you try Juan McCartney, or maybe you try these things. So things would come to you when you're in this space. Okay? So don't fight me. But let's just be very clear about what this is. The guy had 20 planes lined up, Florida. Right? I think he told me he was in Fort Pierce. 20 planes lined up in Fort Pierce. You see, Howard, we got 20 planes lined up in Fort Pierce. Now, the connection was made with someone who worked with me at the hotel who's now doing independent investments and doing some different business after the hotel's closed. She retired, so forth and so on. So she calls me and says, hey, baby, what's up? I ain't see you in a little while. I ain't hear from you in a little while. Me and her talk. And she says, Howard, someone spoke to me and talked to me about organization of these particular things and forging relationships with political organizations or political persons to be able to get these 20 planes in. This is what she called me and saying this. So I said, okay. So she called me. Now, I know these people. I got their number. They know me, so forth and so on. But this meant some things, not necessarily financial, because, you know, this was not for profit. These people didn't come here to bring money. There's no money in this. But there is a very clear understanding that this could be able to identify you as one of the ambassadors. Not necessarily dubbed by any political organization, but very clearly, if you want productivity to happen, after these particular things, it's set up properly, executed properly, then more can come through you, which could eventually be able to change your life. So me and the guy talking, and white guy, Fort Pierce, and he says to me that he wants to do this, he wants to do that, and whatever he could do, he'd love to be able to do this, all these things. So I made a significant call, and I started to explain, to say what it was. I said to the person, I said, I have this laid out, this setup. If you can give me approval for this, this, and this, then they'll bring these things here. The gentleman says to me, Howard, tell them to call me. And he hung up the phone. Now, what the hell was that about? Why they got to call you? Because these stars, these elected stars, that glimmer for 5 years, and many of them never get to the full weight or the full brightness of their star, their potential. They seek to be small Jesuses. Talk to me. I can't even get no amen. They need you to see them as savior to retain their political position. They seek not to be able to be the kingmakers in any sense. And the light, that 15 minutes of light, that limelight, must perpetually shine upon them. They seek to put it off other stars when their time is come and gone. Right, jumping in the papers, talking one pile of garbage, week in and week out. Howard, tell them to call me. Hang up the phone. I text in, I call back, I text, nothing. These fellas are idiots, in my mind. Because how do you encourage the next generation if you don't have a representation to show that there's opportunities to access outside of politics? This had nothing to do with politics. All this was an opportunity to be able to bring 20 planes and have it come through me. Oh no, Howard, you can't be seen to do that. But they didn't call you, sir. They called me. And now I'm calling you. Now how do we set this up? And left it alone. It happened again. Through Dorian, I made significant connections because of my time on radio through Dorian. There was a company that called me that had the N95 mask. Watch me. I promise you from here to God. There's a company that called me that just bought a warehouse in China with N95 mask. They were based in Florida, but they just bought a warehouse in China that produced the N95 mask. They had pallets and pallets of N95 mask. They sent me all the specs. They sent me the information. They sent me the base price. They sent me a discounted opportunity. They tell me how they can get it here, when they can get it. I put all the information in. I sent it to a significant person within the government at that particular time. But this is how I did it. I structured it so it could come through my company. Watch me. I structured it so it could come through my company. That evening, after I made the call, I made 3 calls. And then I sent the information. I said, this is what I have available. Give us an opportunity. That evening, there was a press conference that said that no mass. You forget? You remember? That evening. Oh my God. Y'all didn't even hear me. Another time, listen, I just try to let you know that I've been burnt significantly. Now, when I say burnt, I don't want you to believe that this is a slight against me, but this is a slight against any youth that has aspirations outside of what their belief is that you should have. Oh man, you're too young for that. You're too young for that, boy. You don't know how to deal with things like that. Bring that to me. Watch me. Another time, I was afforded an Trey, you need to stop it. Trey, stop it, right? So, there's another time, all during the pandemic. Watch me now. There's another time that I set up, and I don't know why I'm such a fool and keep going back to these people. I don't even know why I thought they would help. You know, you get once bitten, twice shy, but look at me. Believe in God that this would be the time. This could be the time, Lord. They gotta wake up. They're still in their sleep and slumber, and they're steeped in their stupor. I made a telephone call, and I had an organization that wanted to be able to bring relief to the country, right? Formed and forged in Puerto Rico. It's called Puerto Rico Rises. If you remember, I don't know if you remember, right? Puerto Rico Rises, right? Puerto Rico Rises established, they kind of offshoot, because you remember they had the hurricane in Puerto Rico. They didn't have power for a very long time. An organization was assisting with some stuff. They had direct connections with New York and Washington, D.C., and they were being able to bring in stuff. We established some stuff for them. I was able to pull a team together and was able to do things here in Nassau and in Grand Bahama. And when I wanted to be able to move, and that's why I told y'all, if you remember me being able to go for the NGO status, to be able to do some stuff. Watch me. I presented it significantly, and I spoke to some people. I spoke to them. This is only me being decent as possible, letting you know I ain't got to call the people name. So I spoke to the people and I said, this is what I have. Structured it. We have everything. We have all the documentation. I have all the qualification for these things. I have these people. These are the experts there. I can let you speak with them, so forth and so on. They know what exists in these particular spaces. Persons have already spoken to various ministers, all these particular things. So now it's time to be able to execute. We're going to be able to bring relief in these areas, so forth and so on. The Prime Minister at that time went to the podium a day later and said, I want you to know the organizations that you're going towards. No fly-by-night organizations. You need to go towards organizations like, if you remember, Head Notes. So that's what the Prime Minister says. Whilst we established this particular thing, we already had the resources, we had the team to execute it. The Prime Minister, boom, hit that out of the water and say, these are the organizations that you go through. Y'all better stop playing, because you believe that this radio is just to talk, but there are opportunities that exist here, and you continue to be able to be sorted by tradition. The idea that these things are too good for you. This is what frustrates, and this is only Howard Grant. I'm not telling you about other young men and young women who have aspirations and have done a great deal of things and got their ideas stolen by men and women in various positions. And fumble the idea because the vision was not birthed in you. You believe that youth should work for $25,000 to $30,000 a year, and that is the pinnacle for them. $30,000 can't do nothing for nobody, sir. We are here wanting to be able to forge legacy and be able to take care of our communities and move forward. And we don't seek to thief a dime from the Treasury. Is that the problem? Maybe we should thief something from the Treasury. Maybe we should incorporate you at the table of what we're doing to be able to find productivity. No. Let the thing come from me. I can get you straight, boy. I will never forget, I was given an opportunity to be able to do something right here in Nassau. Significant piece of lot. Coastal. Got everything laid out. I wanted to be able to put the architectural design to be able to pursue monies to get some things done. Look for a traditional architect in the country to be able to do some things. Sat down with him, gave him the whole scope of what we're doing, gave him the scope of the land, tell him what we wanted to build, so forth and so on. The fella sent me a letter to say, I will take it from here. I will take over your project and give you 20% of it. I said, well, Jesus Lord, I never seen nothing like this in my life. Why these old man think that nobody else can do nothing? All your life you sit down waiting for Jesus to come knock at the door and say, I have brought something for you. You think that's me? This is why young people won't get out of this country. Because many of y'all is thief. And you're too no good at it. You have no desire to see this country sustain itself and find a true sense of growth. Your only desire is to stuff your coffers and your pockets. But we are coming out of our 40 years. And we recognize that old mindset cannot go with us to our Canaan. So get ready to drop down. In Jesus' name, amen. That's been a beautiful show today, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you for being a part of it. It's time for us to advocate. It's time to agitate. It's time to wake up out of this stupor. If there's a belief that we're going to get anywhere, it can't be casually. We get to fight for this thing, baby. And we can get up and out. And let's do that together. Let me thank the persons that continue to sponsor the show. They are Domino's Pizza, better than ever. Butler's Funeral Homes and Crematorium, as impressive as required, as inexpensive as desired, and IYAP Mall. Register your store today and start selling. That's IYAPMALL.com. Guys, stick and stay for Trey in the midday. He's going to have something nice for you. Always have something set up. Fan Sean, he says. Taylor. Fan Sean Taylor is going to be in with him today and being able to talk about all manner of cultural things and expansion from that particular end. And we're going to see you tomorrow. Now, I'm still looking, if you want to be a part of the conversation tomorrow, 827-0111, 827-0111. I want to have a good youth panel to talk about some things. I thank you for tuning in today. I'll see you tomorrow, Godspear, right here on Real Talk Now. Have a good day, guys.
The thoughts and views expressed on Real Talk Now are those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of the owners or management of More 94. Real Talk Now is a presentation of the More FM radio network. All rights are reserved.
Listening to More 94 doesn't make you a pop star. Just as standing in the garage doesn't make you a car. But not listening makes the workday boring as More